Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
I want every agency to lean forward.
Big Brother wants to be called Big Daddy now. Paul Joseph Watson writes, the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has published a draft document which outlines a plan that will treat families as equal partners in the raising of children, opening the door for government intrusion at all levels. The document states, the first step in systematically embedding effective family engagement practices in educational settings is to establish a culture where families are seen as assets and partners in children's development, learning, and wellness. The first 2 principles of effective family engagement practices state 1. Create continuity for children and families. Implement a vision for family engagement that begins prenatally and continues across settings and throughout a child's developmental and educational experiences. Number 2. Value equal partnerships between families and professionals. Combine professional expertise with familial expertise to promote shared learning and responsibility for children's healthy development, learning, and wellness. Encourage two-way communication by valuing family input on all aspects of the child's life and development, including their culture, traditions, and home language. Well, that's nice of them, isn't it? Principle number 4 states, ensure constant monitoring and communication regarding children's social, emotional, and behavioral health. The paper describes how government employees will intervene to provide monitoring goals for children at home and the classroom, and that if parents are failing to meet the standards set, evidence-based parenting interventions will be made to ensure that children's social, emotional, and behavioral needs are met. Will there be home visits, you ask? Well, the document states home visits. To support ongoing relationship building with families, programs and schools should conduct periodic home visits so that teachers and families can get to know each other and communicate about children's goals, strengths, challenges, and progress. If home visits are not possible for all families, school or programs should require that teachers or providers and families communicate at the beginning of the year to ensure that the relationship is started in a positive way. The program bears the hallmarks of the controversial scheme in Scotland, set to take effect later this year, under which a shadow parent appointed by the government will monitor the upbringing of every child under the age of 18. The document also extends the understanding of the word family to include all the people who play a role in the child's life, a definition that could include not only teachers, but government monitors. In a related development, the federal government is pushing for a task force to oversee a program under which pediatricians and doctors would screen all students over 12 years old regularly for depression and issue prescriptions or treatment as necessary. Obviously, the program will increase the likelihood of teenagers being given dangerous antidepressant drugs such as Prozac and Lexapro. This bold New World Order draft declaration is nothing less than a declaration of war on American families by pedophilic government overseers, brought to you by the Obama administration, the very same administration that criminally wielded the power of the IRS and the NSA on their political adversaries. This is a big deal, a really big deal. Take a look at the document for yourself. I will leave a link in the description of this video. This is the New World Order on paper, coming for you and your family with no apologies. John Bound for Infowars.com.
And another spectacular report from John Baum. Let's talk about the Bundy family and the Hammonds, the whole land rights situation. Regardless of what you think about these families, about their tactics, I want you to understand, looking at home, when you guys call these guys Al-Qaeda, they say that they're trying to overthrow the government and all that. It's not my view of these guys, especially Cliven Bundy, who's now being indicted on charges of conspiracy. They're charging these guys with everything from assault on a federal law enforcement officer, which to my knowledge never happened, use and carry of a firearm in relation to a crime of violence, and many other things as well. And they said he's spearheading a conspiracy against the United States government. Now, once again, regardless of what you think about these guys' tactics, at the Bundy Ranch situation where David Knight and Josh Owens were out there filming, to my knowledge, Cliven Bundy never assaulted anybody. They're saying that he was using a firearm in the commission of a violent crime. So I don't know how you can hit this guy with those charges. Once again, you like them, you hate them, you love their tactics or not. I think these are completely bogus charges against Cliven Bundy, and I'm sure many other people will be brought up on bogus charges as well. But the simple fact of carrying a firearm during a crime of violence, I don't understand how they could possibly charge these guys with such an offense when they weren't even committing violent acts. So we'll just have to watch and see how this story develops. Now, a story that's been developing for a good while, even before I came here to Infowars.com, is the story of Fast and Furious. We talk about it often. I'm sure you've heard about it. But now we have a new development. Court overturns order keeping Fast and Furious documents secret. The ruling does not necessarily mean that the 8 documents will be released. Instead, a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit merely referred the matter back to a lower court to seek clarity about another judge's order. So, as we've been trying to find out for a long time, well, we pretty much know what happened. They shipped a bunch of guns to Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. El Chapo had them. He's digging tunnels and breaking out of jail. And nobody wants to be held responsible for what this guy's doing, at least nobody north of the border. I think they put one guy in prison, Lanny Brewer, who was this deputy secretary underneath Holder. So they want you to put this guy in prison and pay no attention to Holder. It's very difficult for me to believe that Eric Holder had absolutely no idea that this was going on. Even if he wasn't personally involved, if he knew about it, he should be held accountable. It's like if something happened, a local police chief, right? If his officers were giving guns to the local gangs and the police chief knew about it, he's supposed to come in, interdict and discipline those officers, but that did not happen. So we'll just have to wait and see what develops.
Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash and gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.